Have you ever done something that was kind of opposite to what you were attempting to do that helped you get the results? Have you ever even looked at a situation where when you looked at the situation, you would normally apply one way of doing something, but you wound up applying something that was so opposite and still got the results? Today, I'm going to share with you in this podcast how I was able to use one area of my life to impact the area that I really wanted to impact. Impact. So here's the area that I was looking to impact in the biggest way: my finances, money, growing my business. And a lot of times we join programs, we, hire coaches, we choose new tactics, but for some reason, many people start doing the tactics and they don't work. Why is that? Now, it could be the easy answer of just saying it was the mindset. They didn't change this, that, and the third. But I'm going to share with you how you can go opposite, choose a different area of your life, apply all the success to that part of your life, and then get the results almost like more easy. You want the easy way today? That's what we're going to be sharing on this podcast today. The unconventional way to making more money. So I had a dilemma. I had just been laid off from my job. And so it was July of 2001. Got laid off. And as I was looking in the mirror, just trying to figure out what am I going to do, boom, I just took another job. And it was temporary. It was a 3-month assignment. Took that temporary assignment. It was lateral. I was making 70 something thousand at the time. Pretty much just start making the same amount of money working with that particular company. And then that assignment ended, and then the dilemma showed up. What do you do now? I looked in the mirror, and if you didn't watch last week's podcast, the Mirror of Lies, you want to go check that one out. So this one wasn't an actual lie, but it was. Here's the lie the mirror told me. The mirror said, you can start a business. I can? I've never done that before. No one in my family has had a business. Like, what is that like? And the mirror just said, you can start a business. Just do the math. You could easily make $5,000 a month. You could easily make $7,000 a month. You can do that. The mirror told me. And I said, are you serious? And I said, okay, let's do it. Now I'm going to fast forward, because I just wanted to give you some context as to kind of how this started. This started simply by looking in the mirror. And then the mirror told me a lie, but this was a good lie. It wasn't a disempowering lie. So anytime the mirror tells you a disempowering lie, you just want to tell the mirror, peace out. So that was, late 2001. Going into, I started the business actually December of 2001. So that was at the end of 2001. But we're going to fast forward. We're going to fast forward all the way to 2016. In 2016, I hired a coach. Now, I had already made money. So I had already made, I'd already had $100 and something thousand months. So I had experienced the making money thing, but I didn't realize I was still stuck. So I hired a coach. Now, I had not discovered this unconventional way. I'm working my way through that, but I want to share with you kind of like how things work, because that's why this approach works even better. I hired the coach, and the coach asked me a question. At the time, I was making about $10,000 a month. That's it. And from having months where I did 20, 30, 50, 150, I had already but it was a seesaw, right? So when you're talking about making money and you're seesawing, that's rough. The seesaw is because when you don't really know what you're doing, you just don't really know what you're doing. So I hired the coach, making about $10,000. He asked me a question: how much money you want to make? I figured if I doubled it, I would be good. Here's a rule of thumb. Anytime someone asks you how much you want, you always should say at least 10 times more than the first number you actually think of. See, because a lot of times the first number we think of, it's a conservative number, it's a security number, it's a, you know what, I probably can do that. But it's not a stretch number. So anytime from this day forward, especially if you want to make even more money than what you're making, always do a 10 times result. So at the time, I didn't know I should have done $100,000. So I said 20,000. Then I proceeded to start learning tactics. I learned the tactics, Facebook ads, created a coaching program. I never did coaching before. I'm actually doing all the tactics, but they were working, they were not working. They were working, they were not working. They were working, and they were not working. Why is that? See, identity shift, which this video could be about the identity shift as well, because that's important. It was one of these things where I hadn't shifted, even though 20,000, I got to 20,000 fairly quickly. When I say quickly, maybe within a year. Got to 20,000, and I still felt like I was on a seesaw. It didn't feel like things was moving. So I'm like, man, wait a second. It took me a few years to discover that I'd made the wrong goal. It wasn't even the next year. It was a few years. So once I realized I'd made the wrong goal, I said, what should I focus on? So I joined another coaching program. This time, this coaching program in 2020, this was a kingdom program. This was where, we're learning kingdom principles, biblical principles, all the stuff that, we should be doing. I'm now putting into practice those things. Something amazing happened on that journey. I learned in this process the unconventional way of making money. Now, there's two ways. The first way was I was already focused on my health and well-being, right? So ask yourself, if I can take money off the table, if I didn't need any money, what would I focus on 100%? And I just decided health and well-being, here's why. If my health and well-being is no good, then the money won't matter. Nothing won't matter. So I need to focus on health and well-being so that I can be the best dad, so I can be the best husband, so I can do all the stuff that I need to do in my life. So I'm focused on health and well-being, and by focusing on health and well-being, I'm going to give you some tips that you can use to actually make health and well-being your catalyst to making more money. Then I'm going to share with you the real one. So the first thing I decided in the health and well-being journey, which I have been doing this for 10 years, but I didn't know I was doing it. So now I can decode it. I chose one thing that I would do over a long period of time that even though it was going to cause pain, I realized that if I did this one thing over a long period of time, I'm going to get so much results. It's going to be amazing. Here's what I decided to do. I decided, you can do this too, choose one thing in health. I decided to run every day. I'm going to go running every day. Now, here's why I chose running. There was a reason why I chose running. Because at the time I still played basketball. And the one thing I needed in playing basketball is I needed my legs to operate at a really good level. So at least if I ran every day or ran a lot, I wouldn't have any trouble when I go play basketball. And it worked phenomenally, right? Because, I would show up and a lot of my friends, they'd be like, man, you're in such great shape. Now, I was like, I'm in okay shape. I wish I was in better shape. However, I was running every single day. And I started out running a mile a day, just one. Then I got to 2 miles a day. Then eventually I got to about 3, sometimes did 4, but for the most part, never did more than 3 or 4 per day, even though I probably had some days when I did 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. One thing. I wasn't even committed to my whole body yet. I wasn't doing, I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't lifting weights, but I decided to do one thing in the health arena to get better. You know, that transpired into other things. It's almost like the confidence that you gain from the one thing just spills over into all the things. So choose one thing in an area of your life that you want to get better, that you want to become like amazing, or you want to look amazing, whatever it is. Choose one thing. And I can almost say with certainty that one thing will spill over into the other thing, because as I got so much confidence from doing that, I don't know, doing the things to make money didn't seem as hard. Making cold calls, I did those. Creating new funnels, running advertising, like paid advertising. And one thing that a lot of people kind of like get kind of twisted up with the paid advertising is that sometimes it feels like gambling. And I can understand. Sometimes it does. It's just that because I had done these other things, it didn't, even if I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, I could just go back and get some results from something else and then not feel bad about the fact that I'm growing in the other area. See, because at the end of the day, you need to win. Everybody needs to win. And playing basketball has taught me that winning, when you win, it creates almost like a snowball effect of just moving forward. It's nothing like winning. So here it is. I'm winning on one side, and then I start winning more incrementally on the other side. You're like, wow, it didn't seem as hard. So what is the one thing? The one thing is simple. Choose one thing you can do on a daily basis. This isn't something you do just kind of like every other day or a couple of days. On a daily basis. Here's another one that I do and that I have done. I've done things like go to the gym every day, 7 days a week. I've done that. I've done something like do push-ups every single day, 500 or more every day I've done that for a whole year. You see where it's going? Do a video every single day. I was doing a podcast every single day, becoming more confident. Now, here's the thing. What I've discovered, like say doing a podcast, here's the underlying principle that I got from doing a podcast, doing a video on a daily basis. I discovered my own voice. I discovered like what I could talk about, at length, because they say, hey, you don't really have your voice dialed in if you can't just at the drop of a dime, just like teach on it or talk on it or just like extensively. And so one of the things that I had to learn and develop is kind of like how to discover my voice, which was, well, in order to discover my voice, I'm going to have to use it. Me personally, I'm an introvert, and I don't have a problem saying that, because most introverts create the world. Like most introverts, a lot of times we are some of the most creative people on the planet. So me being an introvert is not negative, where I used to think that. So an introvert is someone like me who thinks a lot. Now I just have to use my voice to bring those words out of my mouth. Now that took some time. So anything that you're going to work on, you must say things like, you know what, I'm going to do this forever. See, because if you can't commit to forever, then you shouldn't start. I heard someone say that. I can't remember who it was. So if you can't commit to it forever, don't do it. Jay, you telling me I got to do this forever? Well, you want to at least accept the fact that you would. Like I accepted the fact that I would run every day forever. Now, I don't do that today, even though, and I wish I would have continued. There's some things that kind of like came in, bad knees, which then I had to make a different decision. Well, if my knees are not great, then what do I need to do? So I had to start doing other things to strengthen all the muscles in my feet, my knees, my ankles, my hips, my glutes, my lower back. All these things have to be addressed for me at 54, going on 55, so that I can run without pain. So I have committed to that. So anything that you decide here, you want to commit to forever and then get started. So that's the one thing. Choose any area. So I've done like a video every day. I've done running every day. I've done the gym every day. I've done push-ups every day. I've done a lot of things on a daily basis. So, but think about it. Those things me doing those things gave me confidence to keep going in the area that I may not be moving as fast in. So you have to have something that you feel the growth in, so that if the growth is not happening in the area that you want to see the most, you have something to lean on. There's still other areas, like there's things in my relationship I need to get better at. I've been married going on 27 years, and there's things that I still need to kind of like dial in even better. Right. And wow, you've been married almost 27 years and there's things you still got to do. Yeah, because people change. When I say people change, sometimes you're in one season, right? And then you get comfortable, then you go into a new season, and then something's different about the season, which means that you can't apply the same thing that you did before to that season, or else you're going to get a result that you don't actually want. And I've personally experienced that in my relationship. And it's one of these things where it's just like, when you're in a relationship, you don't get to control the other person, which is so challenging because we all want to control the other person, don't we? But you don't get to do that. So, unconventional way to making money. So you can do this. I did this. This is what I did. I chose the health route, made more money, but it was incremental. It wasn't like bam. Okay. So here's the way that really did it. So I had the health thing dialed in. Then it was when I joined the Kingdom Entrepreneurship Program that now started having me focus more on kingdom principles, biblical principles, even more. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't. Have been Christian all my life. It's just that now I was moving into a different realm because the kingdom and Christianity and religion is totally different. So as I moved into that realm, and I stayed in proximity with what the kingdom looked like, felt like, and what the kingdom is, things took a turn. When I say that things took a turn, here's what happened. I started to be able to see spiritually more things than I had ever seen before. And when that happened, it's almost like things that I desire. It's like, you can, when you pray and believe, the Father will give it to you. But the key word is you have to believe. Now, if you pray and you lack faith, don't expect anything. These are things that I'd read before. But then when you start applying these things, now, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's like one day you're like, man, my faith was weak. I see what happened. But when your faith is strengthened, so my faith started to get strengthened. My faith starts to get strengthened. My faith starts to get strengthened. And here's when I realized how strong this kingdom journey that I'd been on for the past 10 years plus, how strong things had gotten in my faith. It was in 2025 when we experienced the loss of my parents, my brothers and I. That was when I saw the key. It was almost like, I will give you the keys of the kingdom, that whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. That's one of these scriptures where it came full circle. Yeah, I'm still talking about how you're going to make more money. See, because here's what most people think. If I just get $100 million leads right here, $100 million leads, which is by Alex Hormozi, which you can apply all those principles, I'm not going to call them principles, all those tactics and strategies, you can make a lot of money. Here's what will happen in the process. See, in the unconventional way, you make more money, you develop the identity, you become the person, you actually live from a restful state, never ever worrying about what it is that you're actually going to get, because you are more focused on the identity than you are the doing. See, because when you focus on the identity, when the doing starts, it's almost like it's easy. I mean, when I say it's easy, it doesn't cause anxiety. It doesn't cause a level of pain where you won't do it. It just becomes like, oh, I can just do it. So the identity shift is really the key to making more money. This is scriptural. This is biblical. See, in the Bible, in the Bible in Genesis, and it's not like overtly saying any of this, because if you read it, and I read it for many years and never saw it, but it wasn't until I became aware of the identity shift when it says, be fruitful. It says, be fruitful. What does that mean? So it means I must bring forth what is planted on the inside of me, and I must bring that on the outside of me. Because a seed, when you think of a seed, right, a fruit-bearing seed, a seed doesn't just carry a fruit. A seed carries a whole forest or a whole tree that had multiple fruit on it with many seeds. So because the seed in and of itself begets more seeds. So when it says be fruitful, then I must be the person. I must identify with what I already have on the inside of me. Kind of like today. Today I was in thought, searching for the unconventional way to making more money. I'm trying to figure out, look, well, what am I talking about today? Where is it at? Where is it located? Is there scripture? Like literally, I go through a whole process to get to this point. And one of the things that I prayed for is that whatever I talk about, I just know it. I have to just know it. Because if I don't know it, then it's going to be hard to do it. It's going to be hard to teach it. It's going to be hard to really communicate about it. The things that I know, I can communicate well. Things that I don't know, I cannot communicate well on. So anything that you don't know, then that means that I have to allow that to germinate on the inside. What does that mean? Germination just means that I've got to plant something. That means I got to take a seed, plant it in, and then allow time for it to bear fruit, which may take time. So the unconventional way starts with being fruitful, bringing forth what's already on the inside to the outside. Then it says multiply. Multiply what I already have. That means it's kind of like in order to multiply something. I've got to allow for one thing to almost like be perfect. Be ye perfect because your Father in heaven is perfect. So one thing should be perfect, meaning if there's a way that I do something, it should be perfect. If there's a way that you do something, if there's a way that you have to think, it must be perfect, because you do not want to multiply something that is not perfect. Jay, you mean I can be perfect? Yes. You can be perfect in the name of your Father. You are perfect. In the name of your Father, you are perfect. I'm going to say it again. In the name of your Father, you are perfect. You just have to discover that first. This is the unconventional way of making more money. See, because a tactical way of making money would have you avoid this right here. Go out, do the tactics, doing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I'm burnt out. I had a client recently tell me how burnt out he was. So there's a being aspect of his life that has not been addressed. Yeah. Because when you operate from being, you operate from a restful state. You're rested. And I'm not talking about sleepy rested. I'm talking about calm. I'm talking about patience. I'm talking about even when you have challenges. I have plenty of challenges. Even when you have challenges, you're not up at night. You're not worrying about them. Because Yeshua does say, take no thought for your life. Do not worry about anything. What you will eat, what you will wear, what you will do, what you will have, what you will like any of the stuff. Don't worry. So multiplying means that I must have the perfect, I must have the one perfection that the Creator has put inside me. And then I must take that and duplicate that over and over and over again. That's the doing. That is the doing. See, the doing is just not about tactical, someone else's tactic, because that's not going to work. It's not going to, it may not work long term, even if you use someone's tactic. It's kind of like I'm sharing with you this method. You've got to take it upon yourself to make it yours. I literally took a method from someone else in order to start podcasting. In order to start bringing out my message, I had to learn a method. Here's the method I learned. A guy named Frank Kern. Frank Kern is a marketer. He's an advertiser. He's a natural persuader in that field. And in a training that I bought from him many years ago, I guess this is around so it started in 2017. So maybe in like 2017, I bought a bunch of things from Frank Kern, and they were amazing things. Do I still have them? Oh man, I'm not sure what I did with all that stuff. But anyway, I bought a bunch of things from Frank Kern, and there was a method he gave in kind of like sharing information, like if you wanted to teach something. And so he gave a framework, a start, like almost like here we are. And then it's like, here I am now, and where do I want to be? So you choose those two things first, right? So this is where I'm going to start, but this is where I want to end. And then he says, put about 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many steps in between or points in between so that you can get to the end. And I did that. Literally, I would literally do a timeline, like a little timeline, where I would draw a line, and then I would put a line at the beginning, like start, and then I would have an end. And then before I even know what I'm going to talk about, I would go and then I would do like a hashtag, and then I say, okay, there's 5 in there. So I'm going to start here, and then and this is the title. And so if this is the title I'm talking about this, the unconventional way of making more money, then it's like, well, at the end, then it's going to be the person understands what it takes to make more money unconventionally. Then what does that look like? Then it's like, oh, it's like health. And what does that look like? Health and well-being. And then from the health and well-being, then it's like, oh, it's the identity shift. Then it's like from the identity shift, then it's the perfection and like understanding that one area of your life. Then it's like, okay, what does that mean? Then duplicate that over and over and over. And then once that duplicate over and over and over, then you're going to dominate. And then here's what domination look like. And then bam, here's the unconventional way of making more money. And literally, that's how I learned it. But here's something else I did. As you pray for things, right? I'm like, well, I just want to deposit this. I don't want to have to remember this like every day to try and figure out, well, how am I going to do this? So I deposited it. I took it and put it on the inside of me. I said, all right, Mr. Kern, well, I appreciate that. And when need be, I'll give you credit. I didn't have to tell him that, but I'm giving him credit for teaching me a process to be able to share a message anytime I feel like it. So I deposited it. I perfected it on the inside so that I literally never have to think about it because the process is inside. I'm going to be honest. This may not work for everybody. Here's why. Because we're all different. We all have different capabilities. So I'm not telling you to try and do it exactly like me. But what I am telling you, you can take it, you can play with it. That's what you should do. You should always play with methods and play with how someone's doing. So I learned things from Myron Golden that to this day I've implemented in my speaking, right? I've implemented my speaking. Like I had to learn how to use the Bible, and how to study the Bible and this, that, and the third. So now I can't explain it in this video, but I've totally implemented things that I've learned from how he teaches, and I put that into my program. Your identity is to perfect you. This is the unconventional way to making more money, is to perfection of you. Then, after you have perfected you, and then you've taken you, and then it's like, well, how do I multiply me? How do you multiply you? Well, that's a really good question. Here's how I would do it. If I was going to multiply me, I'm just going to start sprinkling me everywhere. Everywhere I can go, I'm going to sprinkle me. I'm going to be saying stuff about this. I'm going to be saying stuff about my workouts. I'm going to be saying stuff about growth. I'm going to be saying stuff about leadership. I'm going to be saying stuff about money. I'm going to be saying stuff about getting better. I'm going to be saying stuff in all kind of places, because at the end of it, I want to multiply me. How do you multiply me? People are the multiplication, not just me. Because at the end of it, I gotta get my seed into more people. Isn't that wild that I would say that? It is. I need to get my seed. You need to get your seed into more people. Absolutely. If you're going to multiply you, how do you do that? I'm telling you now how you do it. You've got to discuss. Once you have your voice, once you know who you are, once you have yourself dialed in. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to multiply. You're not going to multiply before you have dialed it in, before you have perfected you. No one actually wants something that's not perfect. No one does. No one wants to account for their life. Most people don't want to do it, right? Here's the thing I do know. The perfection of it will create thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who actually's mission in life is to account for it. Here's the thing, though, and this is where I got to get honest here. And that's why it's so important for you and I to say things like, I'm going to do this forever, no matter what. See, because you have to be you forever. No one else can be you. If you're not you forever and you decide to be someone else, then it's like you're not here. I heard somebody say that. What's his name? Rick somebody. What's Rick's last name? I can't remember. But Rick said this. He said, it's nothing like you trying to be somebody else, because it's like you're not even there. You're just, someone else is there and you're not there. So why would I do that? It's kind of like, I can't be Myron Golden. I couldn't be the coach that taught me some of the things. I can't be Frank Kern. I can't be anybody except me. Can't do it. So why would I try and be someone else? I wouldn't. Now, what I would do is I would learn from someone else, and I would deposit that on the inside. Here's the perfection, or here's how perfection really happens. When you deposit the King into your spirit, into your essence, into you, into your life, the King, all of a sudden, something even more miraculous happens. You become a king. I'm going to say this. There is a faction. There's a faction of people who, for some reason, believe that there should be no kings. There's a faction of people, I'm hoping you're not one of those. There's a faction of people that believe there should not be a king. There should not be kings. See, even if they're believers and they're saying, well, we don't want Trump to be a king. You need to I do want Trump to be a king. I want him to be the king because he is a king in and of himself. I'm not saying that he's, biblically and all. Let him be him. He's not even professing to be it. The people who are walking around, now hopefully it's not triggering you. The people who are walking around saying no kings, they are walking around saying something someone else said. Someone else planted. And they don't know why someone else planted that. My spiritual view of this, humble opinion, is that it's a way to get believers, people, to not want kingship in their life. That is what I see. I could be wrong. That is what I see. I see it as a way for people not to be kings in and of themselves. I got a crown behind me. I am a king. So there's no way on the planet that I could say that I profess or could join a movement where they say, I don't want a king. That sounds diabolical. All right. So I just want to warn some of my friends, some of my followers and people who may have attached themselves to that. That could potentially ruin your identity in being a king of yourself. See, because when we deposit the king, he makes us a king. So we now have to profess ourselves as a king underneath the king. So we can't profess those words. Can't do it. But anyway, this video wasn't about that. It just came up because I said we have to deposit the king in. And the king, here's what's so beautiful as we almost are ready to land the plane here. The king saturates himself in you. And as he saturates himself in you, that identity that you are developing, it becomes even clearer as to who you are. And now here's the thing. You must, and I must yield over our whole experience, our life, all that we are to the king. And as we yield our life over to the king, he reveals to us our domain. He reveals to us our authority. He reveals to us that we are kings and queens over our scene and our domains. This video is about using your greatest weapon, which is you, in an unconventional way to make as much money as possible. Here's the thing though. Most people believe, oh, I need more schooling. I need to get a degree. I need to get a master's degree, a PhD. Most people believe that there's something outside of them that they need to get. Most people believe that because they've never done it, it can't be done. But here's what I heard my mentor, Dr. Miles, say in a video I just listened to this week. He says, in order to do something you've never done, in order to get something in order to do something you've never done, in order to get something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. So it's like, okay, well, I got to do something. I'm going to add something to this. In order to get something you've never had, it says you got to do something you never did, but you got to be somebody that can do it. So if I become the person that can do it, doing it becomes simple, doing it becomes easy, and it's just a matter of time in how I develop me that I will have the things that I never had. I never had millions of dollars. And yet, we're on track for it. I never consistently showed up in the marketplace, but yet this is who I am. In order to have it, you've got to do something, but you gotta be first. Be the king first. Imagine that. Write down, I'm a king. Put your crown on. Put your crown on today and say to yourself, the unconventional way to making more money is becoming the king that I am over the scene and over the domain that the King of Kings has given me. Guys, this was my unconventional way of teaching you a method that you can do when you become you. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me. Be sure, subscribe to this channel, comment on this channel, comment on this video, share this video with people that you love, because I believe there's a you inside of everybody looking to get out. In order to get it out, we've got to account for our life. God bless you. I will see you on the next one.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.